Why are you here? Nice. Alright, well, let's see. How long is this going to take to build all this trash? Because I guess it's got to rebuild like the whole goddamn thing. Because changing that like changed engine.h. Of these, you can find the setting for use, logging, and shipping in source runtime core public misc build.h. Changing the define here should allow you to get logging information of shipping build. The response, oh god, don't tell me you actually have to rebuild the engine to turn this on. And then staff, since this is a change to the engine source file, you need to use the source version of the editor. Since a change to source file is being made, you will need to compile after making the change. Since this is a single line being changed, the compile time should not be as long as the initial compile of the entire game. It's like that's not what that crap means at all. And it's like a single line change does not mean that like the compile time is only going to take as long as it takes to compile a single line, right? If it's a single line that's included in every single goddamn CPP file, like it's going to recompile everything, which is exactly what I believe is happening. So I think we got like 30 minutes here of just sitting on our hands and complaining about this. I like this guy. Just for the record, I set that flag to 1 in the aforementioned header file and spent all day getting this engine to compile and run with my project and create a packed shipping version of the project, and nope, nothing, no log file is created. Seriously, this is an essential feature, all caps. How else do you expect us to find errors on the client's machine when there is no log file? What were you people thinking when they decided that log files are useless as a tool to find errors? That is so fucking funny. Oh man. I mean, you just gotta love, like, just the amount of salt that flows through programmers' veins. Because it's usually that sort of shit, too. Like, why doesn't this work? Be like, oh, because, you know, you used your left hand when you hit the compile button. You're like, well, why the hell does that make a difference? Like, well, it makes a difference because it does. I could spend, 3 months fixing that, but or we could not. Also looks like it's already cooking assets, so that means it already built everything, pretty sure. So it's not going to be like 30 minutes of just sitting here with this garbage. It's going to be more like, 4 hours of sitting here with this garbage. Yeah. Alright, cool. So that ran. So this did just get built. Alright, let's run it and see what happens. A log file was created. Alright. Alright, texture creator component play called creating texture, attempting to update resource, created texture, attempting to update resource. Texture resource existed. Shutting down. Well, what the hell then? The texture resource existed, alright. Our texture resource size is 512 by 512, that is also correct. Updating our texture regions. We're not getting any warn logs or anything else in there, so it's definitely going to do its thing. So why didn't it work? Why didn't it do what it's supposed to? Like, it's definitely building it. Alright, let's just look at other places in the code base where we're doing this RHI update texture 2D and just see if there's something else that we're... Well, let's see where people even call this. Maybe I got the order wrong on some of these things, because the update resource thing appears to recreate the texture. I mean, it's still this, like, you know, why does my dynamic texture show up blank? Well, let's just see if there's any other odd thing that's going on here. That maybe when we call update resource or something that we are actually getting rid of the texture that was drawn the previous frame or something. Maybe we're offset by a frame or some crap. So it's like we're rendering to this texture, but oh, we're clearing it the next tick or something? Like, I don't understand why that would be a difference in shipping and non-shipping builds. There's just... man. The only other thing I can think of is that perhaps there's some sort of null texture going on here. That when we're actually getting it, it's trash. The other thing I could do is make sure that I'm actually calling the right thing in the blueprint. So I could log that out too, just to make sure that I'm actually setting it to the correct texture. Hmm. What a crazy thing. Well, the other way I could update the texture is by locking the myth layers. But that deletes the texture and recreates it, which is super slow, so it's not something we should be doing. It's just tedious and annoying. I like how these pages don't have a goddamn date on them. You'd think it'd be one of the first things that you want to see on like some article is when it was written. But nope, that information is hardly relevant. Right? let's just take off some of these options. And compile that. Maybe there's some sort of bug in there where I type something out wrong or something that's messed up inside of shipping build only. Hello, Johnny Ree. I'm a bit stumped at the moment. I'm trying to render a dynamic texture here, and it's working in every single case except for in a shipping build. And normally with C++ stuff, that means I'm not initializing some variable somewhere, and only the shipping build is uninitialized. And it's going to be uninitialized in a different way. So normally it's like you don't set something. I've already looked, like I got my member initialization list with stuff getting set, and you know, I think all that's working. Like I've logged stuff out and it's looking correct. So I don't know. It's and of course to then do a shipping build and all that crap is a tedious process. So I'm trying to work through this, but it is definitely not the simplest thing. I at least got logs enabled for my shipping build, which is something I needed to do anyway. It sucks, yeah, exactly. That's what I say when somebody else is working on something that's not my fucking problem. I'm like, yeah, it sucks, man, and then I just like go back to making fun of them online. That's what I do. That's pretty funny. I had to explain that to Adam at one point because I was like complaining and bitching about stuff, and he was trying to like offer solutions, and I like messaged him. I'm like, dude, you don't need to like offer solutions. I just need to complain sometimes. And he's like, oh well, when you complain, like I feel like I should be helping or something. I'd be like, no, no, no. What you need to do is just stop showing empathy for other people, and just ignore me. That's what you need to do. So that's how we work together. If we have problems, we're just like, yeah, this sucks, and then we just like go do something else. Yeah. So I'm trying to see if there's anything in here where I may have not initialized some data. I don't know. I just don't know. Why only shipping? I mean, there's going to be like some memory access or something. Like, I know the render thread goes off into nowhere land. So the other thing is maybe there's something wrong with the texture stuff in shipping. And what I could do is I could just do it the slow way and see if it works. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try the slow texture locking way of writing stuff and see if that works at all. Because obviously this is just a bunch of bullshit. So I should be able to just reference this texture here. So supposedly this is the slow way to do it, which is just to grab like the MIP level off of this thing, lock it, and then do it inline inside of, I guess, you're on your CPU thread, right? That needs to be level 0. And then we can write it. We'll see if this works. I mean, thinking it through, I wouldn't see why this is super ridiculously slow. I mean, we're locking the thread and writing to it when we do it, and supposedly this update resource call blows away our texture data, and it's like making a new one over and over again. But maybe we can just like, maybe there's something we can do about that. That's pretty funny, actually. Well, that is interesting. Why are we getting a white texture here halfway through this thing? Where is the yellow coming from? So we initialize this to red. Why is it getting set to white? Something's very odd happening with this texture. So text source lock mip. Because this is how I was able to edit it before. we're not filling this out right. Like, I guess it's supposed to be BGRA. Must be offset in some sort of way. Well, we'll just see if this is a little bit different. So if we can't just dump it from a T array of F colors straight in there, I guess. Apparently there's different bytes going on. Man, what a boring bunch of stuff. God. Just screwing around with textures. Nothing uninteresting about this at all. Well, at least, yeah, it looks like the F color stuff is there. So let's go ahead and see if it works in shipping mode. Well, what a conundrum. Why doesn't it work? That's usually why we're asking questions. I'm actually pretty surprised that it's so difficult to do like a dynamic texture, and I'm having so many weird little stupid issues with it. Seems like something that should be quite simple to accomplish. Like the other thing that's interesting is I didn't see this render dynamic stuff inside of anything except like some kind of maybe random debug code or plugin code. Yeah, this isn't working either. It doesn't make. I think something else is wrong. I think I've got some other bug. I'm probably hunting in the absolute wrong place. It's probably actually updating the texture. And I probably have like some sort of trash that is not actually getting set. Like I need to just modify the blueprint to have like a plane in it or something that I've got to. That I can just, mess with a little bit here. So we're just going to make a new test material in here, slap it on something else, and draw it in the scene. Just to make sure I'm not doing something real dumb inside of something else. Like how I said save and then it doesn't fucking save. It always does that crap. Now, could it possibly be that the texture doesn't exist on the first pass? That's gonna be it right there. Isn't it? Isn't it? It's gonna be begin playing at bars. I need to. It's yeah. All right. All right. It's probably literally just that. Let's see if in begin play we can actually do this. Alright, so what I believe is happening is, I mean, this does make perfect sense. What's happening is the construction script is the thing that is setting the texture variable inside of the material when we make a material instance dynamic. And the construction script is like static. It doesn't actually get set. It doesn't actually get called. You know, it does things. But basically what's going on is I'm not calling any of the code that actually sets the texture on the material, and the reason it's not working is because I'm not calling. I don't know. Let's see if I'm correct. There we go. It's yellow. It's supposed to be yellow. All right, I can go murder myself now. So I'll try to explain this in words that everyone can understand. I was not calling the code that I thought I was calling, which is kind of what I was thinking. I was like, God, am I actually even calling anything? And the issue is I should have put some, like I would have solved this. I would not run into any of this crap if I just kept adding in print statements. Literally, what I needed to have put here is just print out what the fuck the texture was, and then I would have realized nobody's ever calling get texture on this thing because it's not necessary. Anyway, so I should be able to get rid of all this trash like this, and it should work then. How about adding some mini fog down the waterfall? Hello, MyMFA. Yeah, the Adam, who is the artist, has got all sorts of plans for the waterfalls, and he's going to be adding a whole bunch of fog and stuff like that, some cool particle effects. Where did he put his stuff? He's got this waterfall blueprint. You can't really see it here, so let me throw it in here. That he's worked on, and what needs to happen is we need to merge them all together with his effects and everything. So we'll be merging this in, and it's got, you know, stuff like those cool little ripples in there, and I can disable these effects and kind of see what it would look like against the actual water. Whoops, wrong click. But the idea is he's got this system already hooked up that I need to kind of merge into this other one. This other one has got like the edge stuff where we can actually control how wide the waterfall is, stuff like that. So like I can change how wide it is, and it's all scaled in world space and stuff like that, as opposed to being scaled in kind of texture space. So we need to merge it in. But yeah, it's a good idea, and we're going to do it. Anyway. So I've got my water object, I've got all this stuff. The tapering of the waterfall is an excellent addition. Yeah, the tapering stuff is actually interesting because you can like mess with this to see how big it is, and you can also make it non-centered, so like the water can flow on either side and stuff like that. So we can actually combine. You could probably have like waterfalls next to each other and do other crazy stuff. And this is just with a trash texture and all that. Like, we're going to have lots cooler stuff with, we got it, because this is just awful texturing. And change the speed of the water and all that. So it's, anyway, we'll figure it out. That's one thing we got to mess with. It's beautiful. No, this is trash. Adams is good. And there's also a lot of really crazy stuff, like you see this shadow over here? Like these translucent reflective surfaces don't cast shadows. So like in order to get this to work, we actually have like a hidden shadow object which is rendering using a shader to actually be able to get shadows onto stuff. Otherwise, like planar reflections don't get shadows properly. It's a real pain in the ass, some of this engine. You can tell I've just spent like 2 hours screwing around with stuff that should have been working to begin with, because I'm all salty about everything. Alright, so what I want to do... Yeah, suck. That salt is for real. That really sucks? No, Johnny. It's all good, because I actually figured out what the hell I was doing. Which is, you gotta learn these lessons, right? And one of these is basically like that the construction script is something that gets called in the editor only when you're actually constructing the object. And then when you load objects, Unreal takes this binary data and it shoves it into the object from disk. So basically a U asset, which is in a pack file, gets taken to create an actor in the scene, and it basically just mem copies this thing from your disk into main memory. And it's real fast, and it does a great job of what it's doing. It's just you need to realize that you're not actually calling any code. So I don't know how many times I have to learn the same lesson, but it's at least this many. So I was assuming that, like, for all the other textures, this works fine, because it's like you've already set this texture in a dynamic material instance, which exists, and the texture that you set inside of it exists in the world, in the asset database already. So when this thing, like, chunks it in there, it just works. And the reason it works is because the asset exists. And the reason that we were having a white texture there is because this dynamic texture doesn't exist because it's a dynamic texture. That's the whole point. You know, like, that's why it's a dynamic texture, not a static texture. Anyway, let's make sure that it actually works, and then I'm going to set up a few cases here to see what texture size we can get away with without blowing out our frames per second. You know, what we were trying to do 2 hours ago. And I also learned some other stuff about the rendering crap. I don't know what it is I learned, but I learned something about it. Maybe I'll figure it out one day. Yeah, the other thing I might need to do, like, is might need to use like the renderer to create the texture, because the collision stuff with ray casting just doesn't work as precisely as you'd want. It's pretty funny, like we just had that over and over where the physics stuff in Unreal just, you'd think it would work, but then you'd be wrong. How wrong? Well, just wrong enough that you'll get embedded inside of an object. Alright, 605, 606. This should be yellow. Good, it is yellow. Alright, so what size are we using? Alright, so that's a 512 by 512 texture. If we hit play, the FPS is 45, a 1024 texture. Moderately wrong. A moderate amount of wrongness, yes. Alright, FPS is still 45 with a 1024 texture. Let's bump it to a 2048 texture. That is not how I play. Alright, 2048 is 36 FPS. 4096 texture. We're getting a horrifying 15, and I think, what is it, 8192 is the maximum texture size or whatever. Let's see if we can even use it. Oh my god, yeah, okay. We just basically stopped the editor right there. So we hit play and we're getting a really awesome 2 frames per second, 3 frames per second with that giant monster of a texture. Alright, so let's test that 2048 since it was a pretty big performance impact on a shipping build. Is there a way to have the shipping build show FPS? I'm gonna have to look that up real quick. That's not awful enough. I want the 4096 texture, I think. I really want to see the performance difference. Alright, yeah, we'll use that. So you're saying, what version of the engine are you using? I'm on 4.16.3 because until all my plugins get supported, 17 is, yeah. I'm in 4.16.0. So yeah, 4.16 is the big one for us. Though I've already pulled in some changes from 4.17 into our project. Like there's some fixes for planar reflections and shadows and other things that were absolutely necessary for us. So that's what we're running with. And I like how my camera's like light balancing has completely gone to hell since I have this white thing in the background over here. That's pretty funny. I can engage stealth mode at any time I want. I just need that thing to be really bright. Alright, so we were running at like 15 frames per second previously. It's not as bad as I would have thought.